A person's adolescence is often undermined, even though it can affect a person well into adulthood. Andrei Chikatilo is living proof of this statement. Andrei Chikatilo was born on October 18, 1936. He was raised in the USSR in the beginning of World War II, and famine had a huge impact on his upbringing. Andrei was presumed to be born with hydrocephalus, or in layman's terms, with water in the brain. This left him with urinary problems. He would wet the bed, couldn't keep an erection, but could ejaculate. His father was taken captive in the war by German troops, which often led him as an easy target for bullies. Trying to escape all of the bullies, he had his first sexual experience at the age of 15. He overpowered the young girl, and in the struggle ejaculated, which added more shame to himself. This was the root for his obsession with sex coinciding with the violence. After being rejected by his dream school, he settled for a job as a telephone engineer. While living with his sister, he was introduced to a woman named Faina, and they married in the 1960s. Despite his unusual fetishes in the bedroom, they were able to have 2 kids and maintain a life in normalcy. In 1971, Andrei became a school teacher and received a multitude of complaints reporting inappropriate behavior with students. He finally settled in a mining school. Throughout his marriage with Faina, there was multiple reports of sexual assault. However, each time she would provide him with an alibi to pardon him. 3 years went by with no reported incidents. Following that, though, there was a 9-year period with constant reports of sexual abuse. His first actual victim was a teenager named Larissa. He gagged her and choked her with dirt and leaves, which resulted in her death. In the years following Larissa's murder, he developed a signature of forging out his victim's eyes. This made his eyes the last thing that they saw. As the number of murders increased, there was a rising suspicion of a serial killer. However, there is very little media coverage of it. With his blood type being AB and the forensic sciences being very limited back then, it was very hard to identify one specific suspect. 15 murders followed, and afterwards he kept a pretty low profile, only killing another 2 women. A lead investigator profiled him as a necrosadist. In 1988, he stopped his brief hiatus and went on to kill 19 more victims. Andrei was finally arrested in November of 1990. He was hesitant at first, but eventually confessed to 56 murders. During his trial, he had to be put in an iron cage to separate him from the victims' families. Andrei was known as a maniac in the courtroom, seeing as how whenever he was bored, he would sing, speak gibberish, or pull down his pants and wave his genitals at the crowd. Chikatilo was found guilty on 52 of the 53 murders. He was then sentenced to death. It really is undeniable. Knowing the effects that you can have on an adolescent can change their life forever. Alright guys, that's it. Thank you so much for watching.
Hi, I'm Johnny. I'm usually the person behind the camera, but I just really wanted to say thank you so much. It really means a lot, and I really hope you guys like this new series. And thumbs up if you really love Katheryn, because she's gonna be the host for the rest of the series. So she is amazing. Alright, thanks. Bye guys.
It really is undeniable, knowing the effects that you can have on an adolescent. Waved his generals around. Chikatilo was, and at one point, pulled down his trousers and
Trousers.
I'm saying pants. That is bullshit. Okay. He was known as a maniac in the courtroom, seeing as how whenever he was bored, he would sing, speak gibberish.
Like that?
No. Sing, speak gibberish, and at one point pulled down his trousers.
Trousers.
Who created that word? I want to kill them. Okay. Seeing as how whenever he was bored, he would sing, speak gibberish, or pull down his pants and show his genitals. Go ahead. That was like I had a brief existential crisis. What's on his genitals?
Wow.
Speak gibberish, and at one point pulled down his trousers. What?
I just realized that Donald Trump is president.
I hate him! During his trial, he had the fact that half the country looked at him and was like, that makes sense. Like, I don't get that at all. Oh, okay.
That's gonna go at the end of the video.
Resumed his killing spree in 1988, adding another victim. However, she would often provide him with Stein? Okay. She would provide him with what? He only killed 2 women. following that though, there was a 9-year period where there was a 3-year period of no reported incident, and he was forever known as the maniac in the courtroom.
When is a rope like a student?
When is the rope like a student? I don't know.
When it's taut. When it's tight. Like
Oh my god, okay, so I heard this joke. It was basically like, the student was drawing like the nativity scene, right? So the teacher's walking by and he looks at it and he's like, oh, what is this? And he's like, I do the nativity scene. And it was Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus, right? And there's like a little black dot in the middle of it. And she's like, what is this? And he's like, it's a flea. And she's like, why? The person told Mary, Joseph, and Jesus to flee. Does that make sense?
Yes, I
so
get it.
So he drew a flea. Okay, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Anyways. Okay, I'm good.